Whoa, if you made it here to this video, that's crazy. But if you did, welcome, because I don't know about you, but I'm just like yearning to talk about the stuff that's like really going on, and like I don't know, that's kind of just like our reality here in the US right now. So a few things that I've just been thinking about that have been on my mind, just analyzing how the 2020s have been so far. It's crazy. Throughout these past 5 years, you've had many states and institutions take away their DEI programs, which is the diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's super crazy to think about because, like, it wasn't that long ago where our ancestors were literally fighting for that and fighting just for our civil rights and education, and now they're stripping it away. We have to remember that it was not always the same playing field for all ethnicities and races here in the United States. Something else that kind of came up and that I've been thinking about is, of course, the Palestine and Israel war. For 15 months, the United States has sent money and arms to the state of Israel to literally perform genocide on Palestine. It's crazy to see that that's where we're at right now in history because it was only like in the 1940s, late 1940s, that the United Nations gave half of Palestine to Israel, 55%. Now, it's so crazy to think about now in this point in history, they're trying to claim it all. Like 55% was not enough. They need all of it. That kind of sounds like settler colonialism. But throughout this war, it's super important to talk about how much aid the United States gave the state. And it's just crazy to think about how many people are struggling here. We have high rates of homelessness, high rates of poverty, high student loans and healthcare debt stacked. But hey, let's go send billions of dollars to Israel. But you have to realize that that's allowed because a lot of our United States Congress is bought by APAC. Like that didn't click until this war broke out. Like if you look up what ethnicity or religion is most in Congress, it's gonna be a lot of Jewish people. More Jewish people than Native Americans. Weird. Today we got a new president, and I don't know, this kind of just all feels like a show. Like, it's just me, I don't know. 4 years ago, you had a lot of these like Trump terrorists, domestic terrorists, storm the Capitol, break things, kill people, and now the president is trying to take them out of jail or drop charges. Like, that's super crazy. There was more law enforcement met with the San Francisco tribe who performed a trail of truth to gain federal recognition all the way to Washington and was met with more retaliation from the Department of Interior than the January 6th terrorists were. Like, if that doesn't scream something to you, I don't know what will. Also, while the president was sworn in, you had a lot of rich billionaires there. You had Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zucker. Yeah, they own our social media. They are in our minds. Like, now more than ever is this the time for someone to make a new app. Everyone left MySpace for Facebook. This can be the year that we all leave Facebook for something else. Let's do it. With all this craziness in the world, I think it's very important to have something to stand for, something to fight for, and something to hold dear to your heart. For me, I'd like to see a few new changes being done in 2025. Here are a few ideas. We need to see more tribes become federally recognized. There are many state recognized tribes, or even not state recognized tribes, who are seeking federal recognition, but they can't because federal recognition is super hard to obtain, and we need to loosen those barriers while also maintaining high standards of who's able to become federally recognized. Okay, this one might sound like a radical one, but the Bureau of Indian Affairs needs to be changed. Like, I know the legal term for Native American, for the political term is Indian, but why are we still using that word? Come on now. I don't know. I'm gonna say just to speak into existence, but what if we changed the Bureau of Indian Affairs to the Bureau of Indigenous Affairs or Bureau of Tribal Nation Affairs? Like, that sounds way better. Okay, this one might sound like hella radical too, but there needs to be something done for immigration. There needs to be something done that protects our gente from stopping them from hiding in the shadows. I was having this conversation with someone, and the idea or solution from that conversation popped up like later on that day. Call me crazy or like call me what you think, but what if we had like a farm workers to citizenship pathway? I mean, I don't know, like let's think here. Like what if someone had to be a contracted farm worker for 5, 10, 20 years, but at the end of it they get citizenship? I don't know. This sounds not too radical considering the fact that we've been fighting for rights since mid 1900s and even before that. So, I don't know. Maybe it's time that we give our farm workers equal rights, stop abusing their work, and start treating them like the humans that they are. This needs to be the year that Congress passes the Native American Voting Rights Act. This act, or however we design it, could address the political discrimination or voting discrimination that a lot of tribal members face when it comes to election times, at the polls, and different things like that. A lot of tribal members, or may I say the ones in remote areas, don't have local polls and some have to drive all the way to 100 miles away. Like that's crazy. We need something to address our tribal nations discrimination. I'm from a crazy state like Texas, so of course I have to bring up education. The public education system in Texas is currently crazy. For example, the state took over HISD, the Houston Independent School District, and it's one of the largest ones, if not the largest one, in Houston. And the state board, appointed board, has been abusing the power so nasty. They've taken away many of the libraries from neighborhoods of poverty. Um, for example, my childhood library, they took away that. Like, what's going on here? Why are we taking away libraries for the children who need it the most? We really have to pay attention to what they're feeding our youth in these public schools and make sure that we're accurately telling history and how this country was really founded. I don't know. Now more than ever, is it important to kind of pay attention to the movies you're watching? I say this because a couple months ago, I rewatched Interstellar because it came up and I watched it a few years ago and it was a cool movie or whatever. But whenever I watched it this time around, um, something caught like my attention. In the movie, one of the character goes, "Our job isn't to save Mother Earth; it's to leave it." And that kind of just explains everything. I feel like that explains SpaceX. That explains like why our government and different people are trying to leave Earth rather than like a lot of the indigenous people here are trying to save it. I don't know. That kind of gives reptilian vibes, but correct me if I'm wrong. Point is, during this time of craziness, it's really important that you pick up a book, learn history, and pick something to stand up for, to fight for, and to hold dear to your heart. Now more than ever, is it important that something changes? We've been having the same fashion and style for the past 25, 35 years. It's time that we get new clothes, not new clothes, but like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like new style, new something. Like, there's a reason why the year 2K came back into fashion. It's because nothing politically has changed. Like, are we going to let the government control our social media and everything that we see? I don't know. The time is now to make a new app or whatever new trend. So let's see what the next trend will be.